Hi everyone, and welcome to our First Class Learning podcast series. Today we're going to be talking about a profitable opportunity with massive demand. We are recording in a real tuition centre, so please bear with us if we get any strange background noises. My name is Ray Calder. I've been a centre manager now for nearly 4 years, and I'm joined today by Jay and Lisa. So welcome. If we can start with you just sort of introducing yourself and your relationship with First Class Learning.
Yeah, certainly. My name's Lisa. I've got a tuition centre in Leeds, and I've been running my own business with First Class Learning for just over 3 years now.
Excellent. Jay?
Hi, I'm Jay. I've been with First Class Learning since 2010, so well over 10 years now. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey watching the whole change and growth of First Class Learning over the years. Has been phenomenal, so I'm here to share that all with you today.
Very good. I found out earlier that we'd First Class Learning is nearly 20 years this year, so it's interesting. Okay, so let's get straight into it. So the demand for tuition is at an all-time high at the moment. Based on conversations you've had with parents, why do you think that is?
We've got the obvious, haven't we? So, we could go straight into a conversation around COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But I think COVID aside, I think parents nowadays are much more aware of their child's educational journey than they used to be.
Yes.
So having a conversation with my mum, she was not really that aware about what I was doing at school, for example. Parents' evenings were more around how you were settling into the year group, whether you were a nice person in school and stuff. Whereas now I think that parents are much more aware of targets, they're much more involved in homework, so they are now much more aware of where their child might need some support. They're more sensitive to their child needing support. Mm-hmm. So I think just as a general shift in society, the parent education relationship has changed, which I think has obviously a huge impact on the demand for our service.
I think parents talk more about the need for tuition. It's not something they then hide now, and they can help each other as well and things like that. Yourself, Jay?
Yeah, no, I like what Lisa said actually, and I think, COVID aside, but since COVID, education has been at the forefront of the government agenda,
yes,
which is why it's more in the media and in the news, which is why there's more and more people talking about it. And I guess even in the current climate where, money is tight and things are going on, parents like myself are more likely to put their money into their kids' education because they know how valuable it is and their children's future now more than ever, really. So people are making a lot more sacrifices in other areas so that their kids can get properly educated.
Yeah.
So that touches on to the next point, really. Paying for additional tuition in the past may have been a luxury. So why now do you think it's becoming a necessity for lots of people? So yes, there is the COVID factor, and I think we're scratching the surface and will be for years to come of the impact of that. But there are other factors as well to that, I think.
Definitely. And I think that with homeschooling from COVID as well, parents became more acutely aware of areas where their child might need support that they then can't just avoid because it's their awareness has been attracted to that area for their child. And also, I think there's this element of if other children are having it, then it becomes commonplace. Mm-hmm. So everybody then starts to view it not as this luxury item that is affordable to people who go to grammar schools or private schools. It becomes something that goes hand in hand with mainstream education. And I've even had parents who tell me that at a parents' evening, their kids' teacher has suggested to them that they need to get some support outside of school.
Yeah.
So I think schools are even starting to warm to the idea that we can work hand in hand together and that we can help make their job easier and that they can point children who might need it to our services. So I think it's just becoming more of an integral part of a child's education journey rather than this elitist kind of area that it was.
I just made a note there based on what you're saying that it's almost more acceptable. It's more acceptable for a school teacher to possibly suggest it. I think it's more acceptable for a parent to think do I need to explore this? It's more acceptable for them to talk to another parent.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably quite key to it all.
And it's not a shame thing.
No.
Yeah.
It's not a shame thing. It's a positive thing that you're doing. It's not, my child's not coping, so we're giving them extra tuition. It's not like that, you know. It's very openly talked about, and people access it for a number of different reasons. It might be to help catch up, but it might be, I know with my daughter, she comes to the centre because I want her to be able to cope with what comes up in school, and for her just to have that little bit of understanding, because she's at that level of perhaps what's coming her way.
Yeah.
And so that she can then, as it's being presented to a class of 30 children, know a little bit about it in advance. Or you get some kids whose parents want to push them beyond the curriculum at school, and they need that stretch. So it's done for a number of reasons as well.
I think there's a phrase, you never ask a lady her age, so we won't do that, but I would just guess that I'm a little bit older, and in my parents they had some idea about education but didn't really talk to me too much about careers, what I might do. Do you think there's a greater understanding and belief from parents working with their children, how they're looking into their careers, even when they're in primary school, that, you know, education's important, I'm going to help them get on their best career path and things like that? My parents obviously did a great job as being a parent, but they didn't think about things like that, but I think parents do now.
Yeah. I think the whole thing ties in with mental health as well. When you talked about shame, or when you talked about not being able to even suggest support for your child, I think right now mental health is a big key word, and there's widely recognised both in the workplace, in the school place. And I think what First Class does really well is it's a tailor-made product. So we're working alongside what the child can do. And we're giving them the confidence that they can do it. And when your mental health is in a place where I can do it and I'm confident, you embrace the education and the learning a lot more.
Yeah.
Education, and I think learning, is a byproduct of positive mental health.
Yeah.
And without that feeling of safety, you can't learn and grow, and then you can't go and explore sort of career opportunities or possibilities. So I think, you know, First Class Learning really do provide that safety, that core foundation that they need to then be able to be independent study learners, and then to actually think about, actually now what do I want to do with this? And then careers, is more openly talked about now.
I mean, you mentioned safety, I think it's key, but I think a variation of that is belief. I think the children need belief. There can be situations, I think, within schools doing their absolute best job. It's never for us to say schools are, you know, we're better, or that schools aren't doing it, that they've got a very tough job to do. Yeah. Sometimes it does dent the child's belief that they can learn and get on. So if we can, you know, work on that. If we turn now to specifics of First Class Learning, we know we have a very flexible business model, and we've covered that in detail in some of the other podcasts. Do you feel that actually that flexible model particularly helps to attract new students, but also retain existing ones as well? Because if it was a very rigid structure, we know of certain other tuition models, perhaps it's very rigid and it can lose a lot of people. So do you think our flexible model is really important?
Absolutely. And I would say, you know, we have the ability as centre managers to set work in a pattern that we believe to be right for the children that we're working with. And, you know, we might, let's just go for a blanket, say that we're going to give 20 worksheets as our average to most kids. But you might have kids that find that really, really overwhelming. So we are absolutely, you know, capable of, and it's not difficult for us to say, well, let's give you half of that. Let's build you up. Let's let you get comfortable with that first, and then think about adding a little bit more on for you. So we can be adaptive to that child. And I think nowadays, we let children have a voice more than they had in the past, don't we? We listen to kids, and parents listen to kids, and you would be surprised at how many parents' decision for their child to come to tuition or not is what the child says, right? Rather than what the parent thinks is best for them. And I think we have definitely got that flexibility to work with what that child needs to give them that safety, that belief in themselves, and nurture that confidence in them. And it's not just a case of, well, I'm sorry, our model doesn't support you doing it like that. We can absolutely be as flexible as we need to be to each individual, and I think that's crucial.
If we then think, perhaps, Jay, if you answer this, that look at then that's really important, the flexibility on the delivery side. But if we can look at sort of the flexibility in terms of the business side, so that you can start with a small hall, your ability to where you operate out from has got lots of flexibility too. There's no hidden costs. I know other franchise, not just tuition, but franchises generally can have hidden costs. So you can start small and grow. You've not got that financial pressure. And also, you can understand what works for you locally. So talk a little bit more about sort of the business side of what makes it a profitable opportunity.
Yeah, I think when you talk about venues, for example, I think it's really important that we don't need a commercial property, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, most of the time kids are at school all day. So what do I do with my commercial property during the day? And then there's all those extra costs that go with it. I hire the local church hall, I pay as you go, I can close over half term, Christmas, and I've got a set contract with the local church hall. And yeah, you negotiate rates, it's a two-way stream. So that was really, really, really good for me. So I could build and grow my business with that flexibility. Yeah. I started off with 1 session, I grew to 2 sessions, and then within my postcode area, I could open another centre in a completely different part of my postcode and set up the same business model and double my earnings over 2 days, which was great.
Just to be clear for the audience, that within your one tuition fee, you can open up multiple centres within that area, can't
That's
you?
right.
Within the same fee?
Yeah, so you have your initial start-up fee, which is very competitive, if not a lot cheaper than other start-up costs. So that was really good and very cost effective. And that's done by area, location, depending on where you live in the UK. So that was very helpful. And then, like most franchises, you have a fixed cost on a monthly basis and a variable cost on a monthly basis. So at least with my fixed cost, I know where I stand. And the bigger I grow, that fixed cost stays the same. So my economies of scale work in my favour. I'm not left with a massive invoice that I'm giving away half my money every month. I'm actually know that, I've got this much aside, and then the more the students I sign up, the more money I'm making to then expand my business in any which way I want.
I think, the economies of scale was the thing that was in my mind as well. Because you've got a church hall. Usually church halls are pretty big, right? You can run it in a way that you have a drop-in style session where kids come and go as they want. Or you could break down that time that you've got the church hall into 2 1-hour sessions so that you can fill that hall twice within the time. There's so many different ways that you can look at maximising the profit that you get out of your business, and it really is the type of business that the bigger that you can grow, the more money you can make from it, but your overhead costs aren't massive to begin with, are they?
No.
But the key is that it's flexible. To stress to our audience that we know not all other businesses are flexible, but actually how we run across England, you're able to work out what works for you locally. We know the cost of living crisis at the minute. So for a lot of people, paying for tuition can be a big expense. We've said that, yes, they can prioritise it, but it can be a big expense if they've got 2 or 3 children. How does our business model enable us to provide sort of such great value, which is how we're going to keep students and things? Because I think people are looking for value at the minute. So even if there was a demand, or I really could need tuition help for my children, I think if it wasn't seen as value for money, we still might struggle, but most people do see it. So how do we achieve that? I'm thinking of our price options, or things we can do with discounts or fees and things like that. So perhaps talk a little bit about that side of things for people.
Well, I think a lot of centre managers offer a second subject at a discount, and I think that's a great way of keeping it cost effective for parents. So your first subject would be X amount, but your second subject might be half of that, or what have you. And then within families, you can offer discounts for siblings as well that join up, in terms of if you charge a registration fee, it could be on the registration fee as well as the ongoing monthly costs. So we can set our prices, and we have the support to decide what those prices are, but within our network we can talk to other people, and we wouldn't ever want to devalue our products, so we would try and keep something similar to those regionally around us. But ultimately, the way that we charge is down to us. So we can figure out what works in our area. So if we're working in quite an affluent area, we might be able to increase our prices a little bit, and maybe even within that postcode area we've got a less affluent side of it, we can offer, promote discounts more in another kind of area.
Okay, so just moving on to the next idea or the next thing that we want to discuss. And First Class Learning, as we've said, has a flexible franchise model. So the flexibility is about how we operate and things like that. But there's a lot more to the flexibility. I just want to sort of touch on what that flexibility of how to run it means for you personally. So we're all parents, and then we've got busy lives and things. I think the audience might want to sort of have some questions, or may have some questions about how does that fit in with family life and having a work-life balance.
Yeah, definitely. I think when I first started with First Class Learning, my children were sort of 5 and 8 years old. So I was a working mum. I was looking for a part-time role. I wanted to be able to attend all the sports days and the parents' evenings and things, to maintain the relationship that I had with my own child. But I also knew that I was young enough to be working and I had something to give back. So I started off quite small. I wasn't from a teaching background. I was just very passionate about working with education, working with children. I had 2 children of my own. I was very familiar with the school system in primary education and in the national curriculum. So I had a lot to offer and I had a lot to give back. So I started 1 day a week. And once I got more and more comfortable and familiar with the First Class product, I increased that to 2 sessions 1 day a week. And then my children grew up, they became a lot more independent. And they were doing a lot more things off their own autonomy. So then I opened another centre, and I grew with my business, honestly. And my business grew with me, and they grew with the children. And as I became more and more confident, even with the product, because there's a huge portfolio and a huge range of products that we can offer, as my own children were working through it and I was getting more and more practice, I became a lot more confident. When I was actually inviting parents to come and see the portfolio, I could give them real life examples. I was creating my own portfolio of completed worksheets. So I started learning this product inside out. It was like learning a new language, but I gave myself the time to get my head around it all. So it's been a phenomenal journey over the years. I mean, my children are now 19 and 22. So literally they've gone right the way through the system, and it's been beautiful to see them grow.
I think one of the things you've touched on, we'll come on to you, Lisa, is that when you start a business, you often don't know the pathway and how things are going to work out for you. And I know through other business models, franchise models that are very streamlined, you have to follow certain paths. Well, if you can't predict the future, there's a lot of worry and stress comes from that. So I think the flexibility that we have in how First Class Learning franchises are structured enables you to then not worry about that, whatever pathway it takes. And I think you've had some an interesting story how your pathway, it might not have been what you planned, but can you imagine being in a situation where somebody said you have to do this, and you think, well, hold on, life's not enabling me to do that. Yeah,
absolutely. And it, we're humans, we ebb and we flow, and we have ups and we have downs, and there's been months where my business has just ticked over. And I've showed up and I've done what I needed to do and kept it ticking over. And then I have, a period of months where I'm giving it my all and I put everything into it. And then it might just tick over again a little bit. And there's nobody breathing down your neck about that.
Yeah.
It's, you are, what I think is the beauty of it is you're left to run your own business in the way that you see fit.
But just to be clear, you do get the support. So it's
but
the
you're within
there
a
when you want to go
wider,
and get
exactly.
It's not forced on you.
Exactly.
Right.
So you're within a wider support network, but it's very much down to your personal decisions. And then if you're not sure about any of those decisions, there are people you can have conversations with. You might not be sure that you're doing it right at times, because this is new to you. Running a business is new to you. But then you can talk to other people and it can be really reassuring to be like, oh, you do that as well. Great, right, I must be on the right track with that. And you can get that reassurance from people. But ultimately, you have a lot of freedom.
And the autonomy, I think, is a powerful thing. You're really empowered. I think First Class Learning as a franchise empowers you to run your own business and bring your own personality and flair. So we have well over 300 centres across the UK. And if you speak to any manager, they all bring themselves into their business. They all run it slightly differently. We've got the infrastructure, we've got the foundations, we've got the materials, but we also have the autonomy to be able to deliver our service that suit our community and that suit our personal needs and our family lifestyles.
That's really
Jay.
important. I think
Yeah.
our audience are going to be sort of thinking a lot of them questions and how is that going to fit in and things. Let's just talk a little bit about the financial pressure of starting any new business, but starting a First Class Learning franchise. And what are sort of some of the costs that you know sort of in setting up right at the start? So we're thinking about the initial investment, do we get any discounts, things like that?
Probably.
Yeah, so the initial investment can range between £8,000 and £18,000 depending on the demographic data of the postcode that you want to purchase. So right now the model runs that we buy a postcode by territory, and if somebody else owns that postcode territory, then you can, as a First Class Learning person, cannot go into someone else's postcode. So everyone has their own rights. Yeah, it's all protected. So you speak to head office, you find out what is available first of all, and with that suit my needs. Do I live in that area, or is it an area that can experience some sort of growth? So you initially invest 8,000 to 18,000. Now that isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things. I know there are other franchises that have franchise costs of 100,000 to initially invest. So 8 to 18 isn't that grand, but for that 8 to 18,000, you get 3 days worth of training. We teach you how to implement the product. We teach you about the maths. We teach you about the English. We also teach you about how to set up your own business, the admin that goes with it, the marketing that goes with it, the financing, the ordering, things like that. Actually, I've mentioned financing. There is a finance opportunity where if you can't afford all of the money, we have a government-backed loan, which gives you that added security, so you can borrow some of the money. Initially, you pay a deposit, and then you can start the way forward. Also, within your initial investment, there's almost about £3,000 worth of marketing materials. You get a huge set of physical marketing materials, so that will include like an A-frame, a roller banner, some big vinyl banners, posters, leaflets. So you get a start-up set of marketing materials that we have an in-house marketing department. Those templates are set up, you can personalize them, and then you can start attracting business in your local area, and you can utilize some of this material.
So as well as all the printed materials, which is really part of the accelerator program, so what else do we get within the accelerator program?
Yeah, Ray, that's absolutely true. So as part of the accelerator program, you also get the digital side of things. So initially you get a website. So once you've had your training, you're onboarded and you get access to the Centre Manager portal. And with that comes the operations manual as well as your website. Now we get full guidelines on how to populate that website with keywords so that we get the most hits. And as part of the accelerator program, you also get a monthly report to tell you how many hits your page has attracted. In addition to that, we get invited to monthly webinars. So again, there's the experts in the field of marketing who are teaching us about how to optimize our Google pin, how to create Instagram feeds, how to optimize, say, Facebook marketing so that we can attract business in our local area. We also set up our own Facebook page for our centre underneath our own personal Facebook page. So there's a business side of things on Facebook, which we also get taught how to do as part of our training. And all of those guidelines and all of those, the references and the policies that we're taught as part of our training, as part of the accelerator program, are also part of the operations manual. So you're never lost. You can always refer back to things, and as your business grows, you'll touch on things. You can't do it all at once.
No.
So yeah, it is an accelerator program, and it goes quite quickly, but you can go back and forth and attempt to do things as and when you're ready. But the marketing department is awesome at the moment. When I first started, we didn't have much of a marketing department, so it's lovely to see how it's grown with the media and the society the way it is today.
I think we're a lot more understanding of our own sort of strengths as a brand as well. I think that sort of come through over the last few years. So I think we're all very well supported, so much so that there's an actual podcast just all on that, all the support you need to be successful. But I think that's a really key part of the conversation as well. So turning now to more ongoing costs, we're going to look at how does that work. So I'm thinking we've got the fixed fee, variable fee, but how does that compare to other sort of franchise opportunities? I know there's sort of sometimes people talk about hidden costs. Do we have any hidden costs, for example?
There's been nothing that's jumped out to me in the last 3 years. So yeah, I would safely say that you are fully aware of how it works, and you do have your fixed costs, so you have your license fee, which we've said on an economy of scale, if you've got more than one centre within your postcode, that license fee doesn't increase. That covers however many centres you have within your postcode. And with your variable fee, if you've got no students, you're not paying that. So you can, you start to pay it as your business grows and as your business is able to afford to pay that fee.
Key. Yeah. That's the key, isn't it?
That's the beauty of the variable fee. So it's not really anything that you need to worry about in the early days.
Yeah. I know before I took this franchise, I looked at other franchises in different industries as well as in tuition, and it's most tuition businesses have a fixed fee and a variable fee, but sometimes the variable fee can kick in quite early and there will be a base variable fee. So as you said, Lisa, if you have 0 students, then you won't pay the variable fee, whereas other ones will have a minimum amount and can catch you out with different things. And it's just important to try and say, we've got no hidden costs, that you will be explained the costs from the start, and it's for you to kind of work with that and make that work really.
And I think, Jay, you were saying, weren't you, that even in the brochure that's provided to people who are interested in having a franchise, the costs are very black and white. We're transparent. The brand are transparent in what those fees are going forward.
True.
So I think we are uniquely a print-based learning. And I know some friends I spoke to when I first started, even perhaps my own perception was, well, it's going to go for a lot of materials, a lot of worksheets, a lot of handbooks. She must need to buy a lot of things. I was a little bit worried about the costs. Do you think that's very easy to plan and order, because I don't want that to become a nightmare, and also that it's quite cost effective even with the materials, because we are going to be buying in a lot of materials?
Yeah, I don't ever really consider the cost of materials to be a big expense within the business. And actually, for the quality that you get in within the materials, I'd say that they were, a great price, and that the value of them is much more than you're putting on them in a kind of pounds and pence figure. And
is there options, Jay, for sort of buying it? So you've then got obviously the blocks and sets. Perhaps we'll just touch on that we explain how you've got some flexibility in the way you can buy and order materials.
Yeah, sure. So there is an in-house ordering system which we all have access to, and that gets updated on a regular basis. Like I said before, there's a wide range and a huge range of materials, and I think what I would like to add is, say an algebra module costs me the same price as an addition module. So I'm really working in that child's best interest. I'm not looking at the costs and skimping out at all, thinking, oh, well, I'll just stick them on this module because it's cheaper for me. No, all the worksheets come in sets. Each set is 10 worksheets, and they are priced at the same price regardless of where that child is on the system. So that I think is a key thing that I also use when I tell the parents, because you really are working in that child's best interest and tailor making a package just for that child.
Obviously within ordering now, that has been introduced quite recently, right, is the more you order, the lower the rate is that you pay for your worksheets. So I've started doing my ordering on an 8-weekly cycle instead of a 4-weekly cycle, so that I can benefit from the lower rate with the worksheets. So there's flexibility within that as well.
So just before we move on away from the worksheets, there is the flexibility that we can help students move on when they're ready to move on. And we know that we hear from parents in certain other tuition situations they can be held back and can be very frustrating for the child, whether that's the business model says we've got to go down a certain route. So I think our flexibility there is how we keep children engaged. I think that's a really important point, isn't it?
Definitely is an important point. So the way the first class learning system has been arranged, it's by modules, and as a manager I can pick and choose the modules and the sets and the blocks that the child needs to be on. I can ongoingly assess the child, so I can see whether they've passed. There are different ways of assessing the child, and I can use the skill set testing materials to actually see whether they've completed the block to a satisfactory standard, so that I can confidently move them on. And I can also tailor make it in line with the national curriculum, so I can put them on more than one module at a time and integrate two sets at a time, so that they complement each other, so that they're getting a good all-round education, and I'm not restricted or limited by the powers that be that say no, you can't do that, because actually I can do that, and I am working in the child's best interest, and the modules give me the full flexibility to do that.
And I think that's a really important point as well, because as much as we can have chats about marketing and new customers and support in Facebook or Google, but when you've got customers, a key part of your business is keeping them.
Yeah.
Right? So if you can retain the customers that you've got through engaging work, through providing bespoke programs for that child, then you're not having to spend your profit on marketing and attracting new customers, because you can retain those customers, and then they will be more than happy to tell other people about the services that you offer, and then that has cost you nothing.
Well, there's a couple of bits there that I think it's worth noting, that we have kind of two customers. We've got the parent and the child, and although then it's a a tuition-based service, so we're helping children, we're actually supporting the parent, and the parent is one of our customers as well. And I think most marketing, we talk about what is your marketing model. You're going to have a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You've just got to make sure the hole at the bottom is not bigger than the hole at the top, so you've got more people coming in, and you're not people dropping out the bottom kind of thing. So I think the fact our materials engaged people, engaged the both clients, so that's the children, and therefore the parents are kept happy. And I think it's fair to say that we do get parents and families, so the parent and the child, move from other tuition models, of which there are a wide range. Some are very good, it's not they're all terrible, we're not saying that, but we do get a lot of people move to us, and one of the big reasons they move over would be, I'm bored with the materials, they're not engaging my child. Is that conversations you have kind of almost regularly with parents, would you say?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And particularly the lack of personalisation. I think that's what that leads to a lack of engagement from the child, and they don't want to do their homework, and it's a struggle for the parent to get them to the tuition centre, right? You do not want to be adding to the stress of that parent. That parent is already busy enough. What we want to offer is that the kids are coming in, they're happy being there. The work is at a level that they can engage with. It's at a level where they can get confidence from it. The homework is bite-sized, and it's designed for independence, so that parents aren't having to get heavily involved with supporting them through their homework. So happy child, happy parent, that's how it works, right?
Yeah, definitely, Lisa. And I think just following on from that, it's about quality over quantity.
Definitely.
So there are some people that think, oh yeah, the more I give, the better value for money that they're going to get. But it really isn't. It's like, eating a hamburger. You could eat 10, but you won't enjoy. You might enjoy 1, 2 maximum, and fully digest that and embrace that. And beyond that, then you just feel sick, right? And that's what I find with these worksheets. The kids will happily do 1 to 2 sides every evening on a set. You give them 10 sides to do, and they'll be like, I'm not enjoying this, I'm not doing that, I'm not taking anything in. And as a manager, and working with the modules the way they are, and the sets and the flexibility that it is, I can see that, and I can work with the parent, and they can see that too. So they do value that and appreciate that.
And even the amount we give, so some children, we might have a default pathway, but then there will be exceptions to that, maybe a little bit more, but also sometimes a little bit less. And you can work with families that sort of, I actually, my weekend is a valuable time, and as long as there's some form of bite-sized daily learning, we're not restricted as to what we do. So I think that's really key. So there's always two sides, to business, and sort of getting attracting new people. Is it hard to attract students and parents? So I suppose I'm thinking really about, children going through different exams, different parts of the learning pathway, if they're sort of starting out and getting them ready for, say, reception to 1, or people are concerned about going from Key Stage 1 into Key Stage 2, and then you've got your kind of Year 6 going into Year 7, you've got SATs. Is it kind of hard to attract students and parents when there's so many different stages of their education?
No, I think actually it works in our favour, because there's never a bad time to enrol a child. There's always a good time, because education is an ongoing process. So you have the September intake, then you have things like parents' evenings, you have the exams, you have the reports. So right throughout the academic year, there's something going on that will sort of poke a parent to say, actually, I need this for my child because something happened at school. You know, even things like World Book Day, that triggers a response, and something happens, and then they come to the centre. And I think, just following on from the conversation we had about the materials, you know, I've got full flexibility. So when parents come to me and they're concerned, I can embrace their concern. If they say to me, actually, Jay, you know, my child has just started doing fractions. What have you got to offer me in terms of that? I can show them that, actually, do you know what? When they finished the MD2 module and they've learned their 3 times table, their 4 times table, the module is coming up, I can show them the pathway, and they've got something to look forward to, and it addresses their concern directly. Like I said, I'm not limited by somebody else telling me, oh, you can't do that, because I can actually do that, and I can show the parent the pathway based on their concern, and I think they really do value that. So the school curriculum helps me to attract the business myself, because they come. But at the same time, the feedback that they're getting at school, I can then feed into that feedback and address the concerns of that parent directly by showing them the portfolio that we have to offer.
And I think as well, like on the back of that, what you were saying about, is there a right time? You have so many different conversations, right? So you'll have the parent whose child is going from reception to Year 1. And their reasons for why they want their child to come to tuition are totally like valid for that child. Then you'll have the conversation. You might have a conversation with somebody whose child's going into Year 5, who's like, I know that a lot of the the end of primary learning is done in Year 5. I want my child to have support through this year.
Yes.
Completely different set of reasons. I've got my child going into high school. I want them to get used to having homework every day. So I want them to start. So there's so many different reasons for each stage of the educational journey as well, isn't there? And each set is valid. And so, you know, people join in different stages within their education for a variety of different reasons. So you've got those reasons alongside, like what you were saying about the parents' evening, the SATs coming up, the moving on to different topic areas that they're worried about their child coping with. So it's so multifaceted, the reasons that people send their child to extra tuition.
So touching into that a little bit more detail, so we're talking about that there's come to us at all different times of the year. If you're thinking about the academic year, is there a best time to start up? I mean, start up a new franchise, tuition franchise. Obviously the idea of this podcast is to give people a bit of an insight into what that would be like. So would you think there's a good time or a bad time, or even that applies to all year round?
I think that there's so much enrichment at lots of different times throughout the year that I think there are ideal times that you could join, but also there's a lot that you get out of it every academic year. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, I did my training in November, and so I had the Christmas to just talk to people about what I was doing in Christmas parties and stuff. Yeah. And before I knew it, I had a load of sign-ups in January, which people didn't expect to happen.
But it's another peak, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is the January, so you've got like your October peak, then you tend to have like a January peak as well as people go into the new year, and it tends to be a lot around exams and stuff at that time, doesn't it? Like, oh, they're coming up, okay, we'll get some extra help.
So just to clarify, April, May could be a good time, but that's not then the only time. What we're saying is actually there's a reason and rationale behind the April, May, and where that would lead you with the summer and the September. But actually, if then it just worked for you and you found out about us in September, October, you didn't want to wait till the following year, there is almost always going to be different parts, and you can change that to make that work throughout the year.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's never a bad time.
Yeah.
something that then follows up to that, if you're then starting at different periods throughout the year, do inquiries happen all year round?
Yeah, I mean,
and is that changing?
Surprisingly, I've had inquiries and assessments in the last month or so, which is usually
this weekend,
not
assessments.
You know, it hasn't been the case in previous years. You can almost pack up your assessment pack, can't you, and just think, okay, that'll be it. We've got what we've got, and you know, we can kind of rest on our laurels a bit. But I've actually had some assessments that have gone ahead and become students over the past couple of months. I think that the parents now are very aware of the opportunity that's there within the summer holidays to continue a little bit of learning. So yes, we close for a couple of weeks over summer, but we provide work, so there is that continuity should that child want to continue their learning throughout the summer.
So just clarify for the audience that you choose to close, I don't close. Yeah. Everybody's got some flexibility. It's not we close as in first class learning, but that's an opportunity you have locally that works for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we do provide work for parents within that time as well, so that they can hopefully keep their kids ticking over. But sometimes they just want a break, and that's fair enough as well, right? But I think that parents now are becoming more aware that they don't just want their kids to do nothing in that time, that they would like a little bit of something. So actually, I think that that's why we are getting more inquiries even as we approach the summer.
So something we've already touched on, but I just want to finish on really in a bit more detail, is how much freedom we get is really important, I think, to being able to make that profitable. But why is that such a great sort of benefit to you guys personally?
I think for me, I got into this business to run my own business so that I could basically not be part of the rat race and be controlled and told what I can and can't do. And I was getting very frustrated in the workplace. I felt undervalued, unappreciated. And I wasn't happy, and I knew that this wasn't right for me to be in this working environment where I'm employed and I'm working for someone else. It just wasn't working for me. And so I thought, well, what are my options? Where can I go? And as scary as it sounds about running your own business, I've never run my own business before. I thought, oh gosh, can I do that? And once I had a chat with a couple of people that were running their own businesses with first class learning, I thought, actually, I can do that. I'm already doing the skills that you guys are utilising to run your own business, and doing that for someone else and not feeling happy about it and not feeling valued. Why can't I do that? Became the question, I can't do that. And once I got my head around the initial fear, I just started to think about ways that I could do it and what did I have to offer, rather than thinking that I didn't have anything to offer. And running my own business really became second nature for me. So that freedom and that way of thinking was very empowering for me, that I can run my own business. I've already got all the skills that I need. I got them in the corporate world, but now I can do this for me, invest in myself, in my time, and then watch and reap the rewards, basically watch my baby grow.
But to match your desire to do that, what you was hoping to get out of it, you had to have a flexible model that you were buying into. So I think that's really important to enable us to get out of it what we want and be profitable.
It's got to be profitable. That was the other part that I was going to add to it, right? We can do this and we love it and we get so much satisfaction out of it, but we need to make money from it, and that's golden. And I think that it does allow you all of that. And when you were speaking there, Jay, about needing to get out of that rat race and the restrictions, and you wanted the flexibility in your life, like my heart was singing. I totally felt the same as you. And it gives you that. I mean, sometimes I'll work on a night because I haven't worked in the day.
Yes.
You know, I can choose my own hours, and it's fantastic like that. And I'm making money, and there is that economy of scale that the more I put into it, the more money I can make, or I can just let it tick over if I want to for a while. You've got that flexibility, and also you're not. I think what was helpful to remember is when you're beginning and you're small, this running a business side of it isn't humongous. It's not this huge thing that you need to learn. It's quite simple bookkeeping to begin with. It's, you know, you might not even have any staff to begin with.
Yeah.
So what you have to learn to begin with is minimal. And then you learn as you grow, and you learn different parts as you expand. And I think that is a fantastic kind of way to learn and to develop yourself as a person as well.
And you've got the network, right?
Absolutely.
So as and when you're ready to ask that question, there's someone to answer that question for you.
Yeah.
You literally grow with your own growth, your own learning, your own business. As that grows, you'll start asking the right questions depending on where you're at in your journey. So my advice to anyone out there is feel the fear and then do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you'll just be saying the same thing this time next year, like, oh, I'm not happy, and what can I do about it instead?
So it's been an excellent conversation today. I think what I've really taken from that is that first class learning gives us everything that we need to be successful, but also enables us to help as many children as possible, and that's really why we're getting into this. So thank you very much for your time today, and hopefully we've inspired some new centre managers to join us and benefit and feel the passion that we've got.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you.
Thanks very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.